Today, we are going to take a look to 15 nuggets of wisdom presented by myself. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, guys, as you know, every once in a while I like to do a video based on thoughts, chatting with you guys, communicating what I think about certain things. It's important. I love the discussion as well in the comments. As you know, this is a dialogue. So here we are. And after 25 years, I wrote 25 because my first system where I started to have a pale idea of what was audiophilia, what was high fidelity. That's how they call it in the past, hi-fi. Certainly not audiophiles or audiophilia or things like that. Started, I would say, around 25 years ago. Yeah. And in this time, which I'm sure for many it's not going to be that much, but it's not even just a few years. It is some experience there. I wanted to pick 15 points that we're going to go and take a look together where I think are aspects, elements worthwhile to underline, because clearly I have spoken about these in several videos, and I think it's once again interesting to confront each other on this and obviously add your wisdom points in the comments. Absolutely. A lot of these points are going to be redundant for some of you, and remember that also newbies or people that are starting the hobby, not the hobby, I hate that term, this passion may find useful these points and the discussion below. Okay, let's start immediately. Let's go. Our first point is dedicated to an important aspect that I want to underline. I have already done this in multiple videos. I think it's paramount. You don't have to spend huge quantities of money to achieve high fidelity. Okay, this is fundamental. It is also fair to say, though, that if you want to reach a certain level, a good quality, you can't be at an extremely low budget. Okay, it's obvious, but I think it's good. It's necessary to underline also this part. But at the same time, once again, you don't need to spend those huge amounts of money that a lot of high-end components declare. For example, I was just looking on the Luxman site, and their components are just fantastic, very high quality, and they're not even the emblem of extreme high-end, absolutely. But what they are presenting, especially the separates, not the integrateds, each component goes for $20, $30, even more $1,000. I mean, those are huge amounts of money. There's research, there's the quality of the components, but you're never going to reach that expense, okay? No way. And as I said, there's even 10 times more of that, but even more, 100 times of that. We know there's no end in high end. So what is the concept I want to reach at this point? The important point is to hunt, to look for where the law of diminishing returns kicks in, okay? Or at least when it's not feasible anymore, when it doesn't make sense anymore. Because at a certain point, when you pay one, you get one, right? More or less. And as you know, the law of diminishing returns, the more you go up the ladder, the less you achieve. And you have to find a balance. That's where a channel like this or other channels or other references help. Not just overall amazing, fantastic, no cost object components, obviously. That is the difficult part. Where to recommend, where to find past fantastic stuff, vintage stuff, but also newly made stuff. Because a lot of that, and I have to repeat it myself a lot of times, no, that is just too expensive. Don't do it. It does not make sense. You can find something similar, and sometimes even better, at half the price or less. Okay, Let's proceed. Okay, another point, our second point is dedicated to turntables. In the end, I must admit that it's similar to what I was talking before. A high quality turntable makes sense up to a certain point, okay? I would say to really get a good thing that'll last for your lifetime, a few $1,000s maybe, but that's it, okay? Once again, I made this huge plunge with my EMT 930. It is different, it's fantastic, it's very cool, even before my Kuzma, but I was already perfectly, fully happy, we could say. All I needed was already in my Technics, the 1200G. So, no need. In the end, I think no need. If you want that extra esoteric special effect, different type of technology, or something amazing to look at, obviously then you're gonna have to open your wallet. But if you're just looking for the maximum quality, no need to go too much up that ladder. Better put a lot more, unfortunately, in the cartridge, obviously, in the tone arm, in the preamp. Those are gonna have a much higher impact than the turntable itself. A lot of people are not gonna agree on this. These are my points of view, as you have understood. Let's proceed. Point number 3. This practically I discovered doing a video for the channel. In the end, it doesn't matter which type of disc splitter you have, meaning a CD transport, a DVD transport, a PlayStation, a Super Audio CD player, or whatever it is. Transport, not players, because players mean that there's a DAC inside, but if we're talking of something that is spinning a silver disc, it does not matter that much in the end. What matters, as we have figured out, if you want a little more of what I'm talking about, here is a link to this test I did, the different transports, and here below you're going to see also a link, a dedicated link to this video I've just mentioned, and others. As you know, that's always my format. And also because I only have 5 links up here with YouTube. But instead, the DAC is paramount. When you invest in a high quality DAC, things really, really start to change. That it was just a revelation to me. It's incredible. Check that video to learn more what I'm talking about. Let's proceed. Okay, point number 4. This is a little more connected probably to an opinion, like most of these points, but I think it's important to state something on the analog versus digital world. Yes. In my opinion, I have to say this, analog is much more convincing and engaging. Okay, I selected these 2 words. Convincing and engaging. Okay, they just win me over in these 2 aspects. Digital is good, I like it, but unfortunately it's flawed. Why? Because of the mastering. The vast majority of stuff out there made digitally has wild, savage mastering, ultra compressed, very, very bad. And unfortunately, that's what we're getting. In an optimal world, a fantastic world, and some producers like, for example, David Chesky, as we all know, he does incredible things where he tries to leave everything untouched. He just does incredible recordings, but he's something rare. We could say only the exception of the rule, unfortunately. This is not happening. And that is also another point for analog, in contrast. Let's proceed. Point number 5, something fundamental for me, very important. Vintage gear holds sonic jewels that up until today, this day, we are at the 10th of June, 2025. They are unsurpassed, okay? There is speakers, amplifiers, preamplifiers, reel-to-reels, cassette decks, obviously. You name it, that are unsurpassed. I mean, one example that just shocked me completely is the amazing quality of the VFET developed by Sony. and others. I did a dedicated video. Here is a link. And this amplifier, that specific amplifier that you're going to find following the link, just brought to a new level of consideration of solid state and understanding of what past technology did when the big companies were doing high fidelity and not consumer crap like today. Let's proceed. Point number 6, cables. Cables may have an impact or may not. They are system sensible, okay? There's never going to be one solution for everyone. It's never going to behave, a specific cable of any type, the same way in different systems, unfortunately. And I would say also that the impact of cables is more clear, obvious, in mid-low quality systems. I already said this in another video. This is important. That's my opinion. When I had crappy systems, oh boy, when I changed cables and things like that, I could hear them a lot more. Now with very high quality components, not so much. And sometimes not at all. I admit that, not at all. So it depends. Let's go. Point number 7. I have to admit that, based on my experience, solid state amplifiers compared to a single-ended triad type of amplifier, but also we could say tube-based preamps compared to solid state, are just the solid state less refined, less, the soundstage is more compressed. I have some notes here because I really wanted to communicate specific terms on specific elements. So the soundstage, as I said, the richness of the elements, of the sonics, but also the tone, how tone is recreated. These and other aspects just put tubes at another level. I tried and tried. You're going to see other stuff I'm going to review on the channel soon. Fantastic jewels of solid state type. But in the end, I always turn back to tubes. I'm not biased. I'm looking for something revealing. As I said before, see above about the Sony. Fantastic. That's one example where I was one. Or even the Audiones by AGD, Class D amplifiers based on gallium nitrate. Fantastic stuff. But tube gear is at another level. And I have had multiple confirmations throughout my journey. So I want to state this division. Now, for me is evident. Very rarely, at least, solid state can surpass tubes. Let's go. Point number 8, very obvious, but I have to put it, it's important to underline it inside this 15 points. Room treatment is paramount. Before you start buying stuff or fiddling around with cables and things like that, make sure your room is a little bit sound absorbent, okay? Or that you don't have flat surfaces that reflect too much the sonics. Or if you have too much bass, you need bass traps. Okay, nobody is gonna want to put specific or dedicated, or at least very few people want to put dedicated material, treatment material. As I always say, carpets, books, records, curtains, rugs, stuff in the room helps. If it's very empty, whatever you do, it's gonna sound like shit. Let's proceed. Point number 9, another point extremely banal and obvious for who is in hi-fi, but it has to be here, speaker positioning. Very important, and it changes always. It changes if you change the room, it changes if you change the speaker, meaning that you always have to experiment. The direction, the distance from the wall, if you even want to incline it a little bit. We also did a video on that actually. So once again, very important, well known by everybody, but I had to say it. Let's proceed. Point number 10, something extremely important for me. I have underlined it various times. Here is a dedicated video to the topic I'm about to say, that specs and measurement are not telling the whole story, okay? They are useful, but they can't be our guidance. They are very limited, and even if you have good measurements and good specs, not only they're not telling all the story, but they're not even automatically an index of quality, okay? Please bear in mind this. Check that video for more details on this. Let's proceed. Point number 11, very straightforward. Recording, mixing, and mastering of an album, of any type of media, is always going to be much more impactful, much more relevant, much more important than any part, any component of your hi-fi system, okay? That is always going to be the most important part. Clearly, it's not in your hands, so you can't do anything except for choosing quality recordings. At a certain point, you should, at least, in a specific genre, no worries. It doesn't have to be classical music or jazz or things like that. It's more easy to find stuff in that segment, but no problem, explore. But always remember that since mastering can change, for example, look for a recording where mastering is a little more soft, a little more respectful of the original, for example, or they're doing a new version, like it's happening for several re-releases, reissues, where there is a much better and forgiving mastering and less compressed and things like that, okay? So always bear in mind these elements are paramount. Then the playback kicks in, but that is the source, we could say. The software is fundamental. Let's proceed. Point number 12. This is going to be controversial, and I accept it. In my opinion, a step-up amplification gives better results. What do I mean? For example, Lionel, step-up transformer, preamplifier, amplifier, I don't know, even B-amping. Breaking up the signal, I know there's a lot of connections. It's going to bring a little bit of degradation to the signal. But I found that if you're using, for example, a preamp against an integrated amplifier, I almost always get better results, even with very high-end integrated stuff. Step-up transformer combined with a phono preamp. When it's correctly matched, it's heaven. It's pure bliss. A phono preamp by itself, it's not always going to manage to give the best results. So breaking up the signal and slowly enhancing the gain, the amplification, let's say, gives, once again, in my opinion, better sonics. Let's proceed. Point number 13, transformers. I am increasingly giving importance on any type of component and any type of transformer to transformers. The materials and the winding, okay? They are paramount. They change completely the sound signature of something. So much that, in fact, a lot of people prefer OTL, which clearly do not have any type of transformer, at least in the output section. In any case, if it's for power, if it's in output transformers or any type, when there's a transformer and it's of high quality, you're already at a step above. In fact, there are various, this is something I underlined in a video dedicated on tubes I recently made. Here is a link. If you get a high quality tube preamp that has fantastic tubes, fantastic design, great materials inside, capacitors, great connectors, blah, 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 always check what transformers they're using. And also in solid state, because in most cases they aren't that important. They don't give that much importance, the labels, the manufacturers, and instead that is where the magic, one part of the magic is taking place. So always put great attention. That's my suggestion. Let's proceed. Point number 14, synergy. Synergy between components. Now, a lot of times it does not make any difference. But in certain combinations, oh boy, if it does, especially in negative. I mean, you're starting to say, think, understand, hear bad results, even though you're getting great stuff. And sometimes the motivation, the reason is a bad synergy. Okay, like a preamp and an amp, or like a cartridge with its phono preamp, or a step-up transformer with a phono preamp. But even cables matching with different types of components, of gear, tubes. I experiment between newly made ones, quality, vintage, and sometimes one or the other is terrible and the other one works. It changes so much that it's important to always keep your mind open and thoughtful about that part, because maybe you're not making that component fully express himself, okay? Like, for example, I remember I had my Shindo Maceto, which only with certain amplifiers was really singing. With others, it was dull. And that's a perfect example, I think. Let's proceed. Our last point, dedicated to listening. Yes, it's important, you guys. I've said this through many videos. I also did a dedicated video with a terrible audio, but the content is solid. Here is a link. Once again, if I finished them, they're all here below. It's important to focus on our music, meaning sitting down and dedicate our attention. Obviously, if you're an audiophile, you should be doing that, not just cleaning around or working out. Listen to an entire album, not playlists, not one song at a time. Give credit to the artist, focus on what he put together in the past, releases of the past, or even modern ones. Listen to different types of music, even sometimes things outside your comfort zone. You're always going to be amazed and learn things sonically and clearly. Live music, fundamental. Go to those concerts, more acoustic as possible, okay? Thank you again. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments below on all these topics and more. If you have more tips or suggestions or nuggets of wisdom, as I call them. Thank you again for watching. And remember that music is born analog. Bye. Hey there. If you are enjoying my content, please consider to subscribe. It's free, and it will help the channel tremendously. Also, don't forget to explore my prior videos. There's something for everyone. Welcome to the audiophile community.